Welcome to Straight Out of WAC Pigskin Podcast. My name is Dustin Helton. I would be normally joined by Kyle McDaniel, but unfortunately, our day jobs getting away, and Kyle had to work tonight, and then I have to travel this week for my job, so we couldn't get together to record. But while Kyle is gone, I do have a special guest with me, and that is the Angry Axe IPA from Fredonia Brewing in Nacogdoches, Texas. Hey, Fredonia Brewing, if you want to hook us up with some sponsorship money, that would be swell. Anyway, so welcome to the recap show for this week. We're just going to go through everything that happened over the WAC this past weekend and look forward to games next week. Once again, remember, we're part of the FCS Fans Nation podcast network. A lot of great podcasts about different conferences, different teams, and of course, the big show that they record on Sunday nights and get out where they go through all the fans' questions from the FCS Fans Network Facebook page. So even though Facebook was down today, you should still go on and go like that page and get involved. And if you like these podcasts, if you're new to it, just remember, hit the like and subscribe down below. That lets us make these great podcasts that we get to watch each week. So we're going to kind of go through, we're going to talk about what happened this past weekend, as well as everything that's going to happen next week. I'm going to show y'all some stuff too on here, so you have some video things to look at besides my ugly face. So forgive me if you see me looking down. My camera is mounted up high while my screen's down below. So we're going to talk about the scores from this week. Obviously, we're going to talk about Battle of Piney Woods first. You see me wearing my Battle of Piney Woods shirt. Didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, but it was one heck of a game to watch. So Battle of Piney Woods took place in Houston, Texas on Saturday at the NRG Stadium to home Houston Texans. Had about 25,000 there in attendance. To see Sam Houston come back from a 15-point deficit in the fourth quarter and win 21-20. Like I said, SFA was up 20-6 in the fourth quarter, and Sam scored 15 unanswered points. And one of the biggest things they did was they took a 2-point conversion to get Sam within 6. When they did that, it kind of knocked the air out of SFA, to be honest. It put them back on their heels. SFA did have a drive after the Ify had a touchdown catch, not after that touchdown catch, after their third string quarterback ran it in for a score. SFA had a drive, unfortunately got to 51 yards out for field goal. Campos sent it wide right, but that's okay. It was one heck of a game to watch. I'll say neither team had a really efficient rushing attack because their front seven on both sides played extremely well. I think SFA rushed 33 times for 96 yards, which is something like a 2-point-something yards per carry average, pretty low. Sam only got, I think, 64 on the ground, too. SFA held Ramon Jefferson in check. And, of course, with Eric Schmidt being out and they were using Shoemaker instead, Schmidt is a versatile quarterback who has wheels and is a rushing threat. And I think that hurt their numbers. I think also SFA did a good job changing their game plan to play against Shoemaker. Xavier Gibson was actually the only wide receiver to get 100 yards and a touchdown. Jaquez Ezzard had a touchdown, as did a day for Sam, but it's just what it is. The worst thing about this is that SFA has lost 10 in a row. Great if you're a Sam fan, not great if you're an SFA fan or one like myself, but it was still one heck of a game to watch and to attend. I got to go. It was fun. Saw some folks from the Sam side. So hi, guys. Thanks for hanging out and having a couple with me. Some of the other games this past weekend: Eastern Kentucky U20, Tarleton 3. EKU's defense basically just shut down Tarleton's offense. They forced 2 picks, and one of those was returned for a touchdown by Eli Harrison. DeJuan Hewitt rushed for 119 yards on the ground, and QB Parker McKinney also took a 30-yard touchdown run to the house. Like I said last week on the last podcast, Eastern Kentucky is building something out there in Richmond. I'll be interested to see what happens as they go on throughout the rest of the season. Kennesaw State 31, Jacksonville State 6. This isn't a WAC score, but the reason why I'm going to talk about it is because SFA is playing Jacksonville State this week. And I think Jacksonville State has basically just given up on their season now. It sure did look like it. Their head coach, John Gross, is in the hot seat. His contract is up, I think, soon. It'll be issued to see if he's 6th round. But like I said, KSU took their triple option offense and just went all over for the ground against Jacksonville State for 271 yards and had another 72 yards in the air. And KSU forced 2 picks from Derek Cooper. So obviously, like I said, that wasn't a WAC game. That was an ASUN game, part of the AQ7 that SFA is and Sam and Abilene Christian and Lamar are playing in. But because Stephen F. Austin's playing Jacksonville State this week, I did want to touch on that score. UCA 42, Abilene Christian 21. That was an interesting game too, because Abilene Christian was up 21-14 at the half, and then UCA just completely shut them down in the second half. Braylon Smith went nuts. He went 28 for 38 for 358 yards and 5 touchdowns for UCA. Darius Hill had 86 yards on the ground and a touchdown as well. Luwan Winningham had 8 receptions, Luwan Winningham, my apologies, had 8 receptions for 211 yards and a touchdown. And then Christian Richmond had 3 touchdowns. And UCA stormed back, like I said, from a 21-14 halftime deficit. Now, what's interesting about that for the WAC is that UCA still has to play SFA, and they could potentially, win out and get the second place spot in the AQ7 and get one of the at-large bids. I really think it's down to SFA or UCA, and I think whoever wins their game in November is going to get an at-large bid. Although UCA, I mean, they had a rough season to start with losses to FBS Arkansas State, lost to Sam Houston, a loss to Missouri State, and a win against Arkansas Pine Bluff. But they're not one team. They're not a team to be trifled with. They're really good, really, really good. And then lastly, South Dakota State 55, Dixie State 7. We kind of knew that one wasn't going to be a contest because South Dakota State is the best team in the nation. Dixie State's transitioning. But, Dixie State, we're going to applaud them again because they came on and they decided to play a big boy schedule. They've got a tough matchup this week against Montana. So, they're growing. I think they will be great. And if anybody who watches this knows the Dixie State athletic director or their coach, I would love to get them on this show to talk about why they did the schedule the way they did this year, because, I mean, it just makes you respect them and what they're trying to do. So those are the games from last week. We got our WAC Power Poll as voted on by some of the beat writers and some other FCS fans, and it really hasn't changed from last week. Sam first, SFA second, Abilene Christian third, Tarleton fourth, Dixie State fifth, and Lamar bringing up the rear. So, it was like I said, it was an okay sort of game, sort of week last week. Some great action. I do want to share the WAC Player of the Weeks for offense, defense, and special teams for y'all. Give me just a second, since I finally figured out how to share stuff on here. I'm gonna share this window. I'm gonna share the window that has it up for you. Where did it go? Here we go. So my apologies on making y'all wait and you having to look at me look down at this going, what are you doing? So I think you guys can see this now, but you can see the athletes of the week for the WAC this year, or this week, this past week. I apologize. Shoemaker from Sam Houston, obviously, man, he came in as a backup with Eric Schmidt being out due to concussion protocol because Eric Schmidt's been banged up this year, and he came in and for a rivalry game, as much as I dislike Sam, I have to respect the effort that he put in. He came in clutch at the very end. Jahari K, who is part of the best front seven in FCS football, had a great game. And then Max Quick for SFA, whose punts are just insane. He's averaging something like 57 yards a punt. Had one go for 75, I think, and it put Sam back at their own like 2 or 3. SFA's got a great punt unit. We got a great kicker. SFA's a great kicker. Just unfortunately, he just missed the game-winning one. But what can you do? That's what it is. So if we come and take a look at what we have for this week, just a few games on the schedule, but there's some real good ones. Sam Houston's going to travel down to Beaumont and face the Lamar Cardinals. Lamar's not a very good team this year, guys. I'm sorry. I know you're coming back and trying to build your program back up. And I think in a few years you will be very competitive in the WAC. It's just not going to happen this year. So makes you wonder for Sam if they actually play Schmidt or if they give him another week off to recover. And I think Sam has a bye after that too. I can't remember. So be a good time for Schmidt to recover and get healthy, because he's a threat, and he's a threat that Sam needs. But I think Sam Houston's going to win that one big. I think the second stringers will be in probably by halftime. That looks like one of those games that'd be like a 55-7 sort of route for Sam Houston. Abilene Christian's going out to Richmond to face EKU. I think this is a good litmus test for both teams. ACU played great in the first half against UCA, and then unfortunately, this fell apart, and UCA showed how good they were. But this would be a good test because they're going to take on a great Colonel team out there, and EKU has been building up a great program there. So I think it'll be a close game. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think EKU is the better team, just barely though. And so I would give them the nod at home, but I think it'll be a close one. I would say probably EKU by 7 if I was guessing. Dixie State at Montana. Sorry, Blazers. Like, you guys, you had to travel to Brookings and play South Dakota State and got beat up, and then now you got to go to Wagriz and play Montana, and that's just rough. But iron sharpens iron, and you guys are getting great experience from playing in these venues, and you're really getting a taste of the best of the FCS. So I think this one is probably ugly as well. But, of course, the question I have is if Dixie State somehow upsets Montana, because Montana did lose last week to Eastern Washington. They might be a little down. Does Bobby Hawk say that this season doesn't count anymore? I'm just kidding. That's just a dig at the coach. But no, I think Montana's going to win this one big because they're going to be mad about that loss to Eastern Washington. And if you haven't watched that game, you can go on ESPN Plus, I think, and still watch it. And it was one heck of a game to watch. And then lastly, the game of the week for the conference because of the implications. It's Stephen F. Austin traveling to Jacksonville, Alabama to take on Jacksonville State. So the playoff implications here are huge, but they're huge for SFA, honestly. I think Jacksonville State, with their loss, have basically just eliminated themselves from an opportunity to get into the playoffs. SFA, they would have to win out in the AQ7 play to make the playoffs. Sam basically has the conference in their hand. It's their own destiny at this point. If they manage to lose, it's on them because they've already gone through the two toughest teams with UCA and Stephen F. Austin. But if Stephen F. Austin can make that a run, there's no reason with 2 losses, one of them being to FBS Texas Tech, that they could not be an at-large bid. I think they would have the resume at that point with wins over Jacksonville State, and if they were to beat Central Arkansas, but they have to go to Conway, and Conway is a very tough place to play. I am watching Jacksonville State, man. Like, I don't know if that team has just given up or what, but they did not look like the Jacksonville State teams of old, and I don't know if that has anything to do with just what's going on with John Graw and everything else. So could be a real fun one to watch there. I think SFA is probably going to take this one. I know some Jacksonville State friends that they're not doing Fear the Beak. They're doing Fear the Bleak right now because Jacksonville State's outlook looks pretty bleak for the rest of the season. I think SFA is going to win this one, but it is Jacksonville State's homecoming, I believe. So you never know, but I'm going to say SFA by like 10-14. I think SFA is going to be pretty mad about losing to Sam Houston. I'm sure Colby Carthel will have them completely fired up and ready to go. So that kind of goes through the slate. Again, we're keeping this recap one kind of short just because, one, I'm writing solo with the exception of this Angry Axe IPA from Fredonia Brewing, Nacogdoches, Texas. But no, we're going to, like I said, Kyle will be on next week. We'll do some more recap. I would say stick around. We're going to have another show come out this week. It might come out tonight too, where I have a very special guest, and we're going to talk about one of the WAC schools that has joined and how it's been. And then stick around for next week because I have another special guest. I will give you guys a hint. It is the gentleman who sent me this hat. He is going to join us and talk about WAC football. So I'm pretty excited. So once again, just a quick recap show for you guys. Remember, like and subscribe for FCS Fans Nation. We'll do these as long as you keep watching them. We really want to grow the WAC football brand, and we will get some more stuff in here. So I think that's it for now because I'm flying solo and I don't want to keep boring you guys. So we're just going to keep this 1 to 15 minutes, and we will catch you next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being an FCS fan. Remember, like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.